All right, we are live. It is 5 o'clock Eastern. Actually, it's 5:01 Eastern time. We're late,
We're late.
Dave. I am Jeff with the Teach Better Team. There's Dave with the Teach Better Team coming to us live from Rhode Island, which is not where you're normally supposed to be.
No,
But this is your Teach Better Brain Break for Wednesday, March 31st. Can you believe
That's
that?
crazy.
Like March 31st already? Like that's
tomorrow's
nuts.
gonna be a fun day, though. I can't wait.
Tomorrow should be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to get my first shot for the vaccine on April Fools. I'm curious if they're gonna be like, oh nope, sorry. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, we're gonna talk about we gotta talk about the brackets, see how we're doing.
No, we don't.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
We gotta talk about
We
that.
talked about that last week, Jeff. We're good now.
I know, yeah, but things have changed. So we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about some other stuff. We'll have some fun. Drop in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from, where you're at, like what platform you're at, and what you're taking a break from right now with us. We'll be back in about 52 seconds. All right. How you doing, buddy? How's Rhode?
Let me talk about that intro real quick. Chad Ostrowski is everywhere in that intro, and I love it. I love it.
That, I noticed that like he's at the end of all of them. It's like, oh, there's Chad at the end again. He's like pointing at someone, like
Making an
like he
impact.
does.
Love it.
He's such a pointer. I don't know what that means.
That sounds like a Seinfeld episode. I don't know.
that's what that is. It's like the close talker, the pointer,
Yeah.
whatever. So hi, Livia, how are you? Good to see you, friend. So you're in Rhode Island.
I am
for a few days now. You've been there.
Yeah, and you know why I'm here?
No, I figured you hadn't been there before, so you're like, let's go to Rhode Island because I'm Dave and I do whatever I want.
That's exactly what I was going to say to you. Never been here before, so I said, let's find a map, find a place I haven't been. Rhode Island. That's a great place to go on vacation during a pandemic because nobody else is here. So let's go. And it's gorgeous. It's a great little state. I love it.
You're right by the water, right? Is that where you're at? Are you right by the water?
Well, I think everybody in Rhode Island is right by the water, to be fair.
Most of Rhode Island is by the
is
water.
kind of like Hawaii, but attached to the continental U.S. and a lot colder. Like everywhere you
and
look,
a lot
it's water.
smaller. A lot smaller.
Yeah, it's a little piece of paradise. But so I took the scenic route to get here.
Okay.
Drove kind of like right by your house, basically, on the way here.
Is it really like a non-scenic route to when you go from Michigan to Rhode Island? I mean,
that's true. Anytime you leave the state of Michigan, it's scenic. You're right. But so I got about halfway through Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island was in like a 4-hour shot. But I looked at my map, and I realized I'd never been to Delaware either. So right turn, and made a little 4-hour trip down to Delaware.
Is it right turn? It was.
I should show you my Google map. I went like a mile past the border and turned around and came up to Rhode Island. So I've been to Delaware. I made it through Connecticut, which I'd never been to. And now I'm spending a few days here in Rhode Island. And it is absolutely gorgeous. But imposter syndrome is real because Rhode Island, they got some cars. They got some yachts. They're not driving white minivans. They don't have 4 kids running around. This place, this is nice.
I believe that a few years ago I was in Delaware and it was like literally like crossed in, but just to get through, like across through like a corner of it, and that was it. So I totally get that. I feel like I saw what I needed to see. Okay. I don't know if Joe Biden would agree. He'd probably be upset about that comment, but like that's where I'm going to stick. That's where I'm going. So
I saw the sign crossed off my map, and I'm good too. So we're good.
What's up, Chelsea? Jackie's in the house. Nikki's in the house.
Liv's not feeling
Megan's
well.
in the house.
Still hanging out with us. Liv, I'm sorry you're not feeling well. Liv, not feeling well today.
Oh, Danielle's here. Everybody send Liv some green hearts, please, in the comments to make her feel better. That'd be really great. So let's talk about brackets.
Do we have to, Jeff Gargas? Do we?
I would
have
like to because I don't. Because I have this. I'm pretty sure that I'm not.
Week.
I'm pretty sure I'm not going to end up winning the Teach Better Team internal bracket. But right now, I'm in first place.
Let me check. I don't know. You stand a pretty good chance right now.
Yeah, but I'm looking like I know Chris is betting on Baylor. So if Baylor pulls off a couple upsets, like he's going to win that. But I'm also looking. I think there's someone I can't remember who it was. Was it Megan that has Gonzaga win as well? But does she have Houston?
I will look right now. She has,
or is it Michelle? I think Michelle has Houston. So like, if Gonzaga loses and Houston wins out, then like it won't matter the championship at that point, right? Because she has enough then I think to overtake me because it's not much of a lead.
I think it's right now. It's between you and Chris, to be honest with you.
Because if Baylor can pull it off,
Baylor wins, you're good. Because not a whole lot of people had. There's a lot of Michigan here. There's a lot of Gonzaga.
A lot of Michigan and Illinois, and then a lot of Gonzaga. Yeah,
Gonzaga. So I think you're sitting pretty. You're sitting pretty right now, unless Baylor pulls it out, and then the varsity coach will earn his keep, and he'll win the bracket. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, you would think he would be better at this. So I hope that's what it is. Megan says it's not her. She's not going to win. But I just, I was just really.
I was bragging on Katie Miglin last week because she was killing it. Katie Miglin, I have to scroll down mine now. So Katie Miglin, you're. Thank you for your service, Katie Miglin.
I feel like you have to scroll that far. Katie kind of fell from grace there. But you were first until Michigan lost, right? I think you were still hanging. Yeah.
Last night was a devastating night. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah. It was actually I actually didn't watch it. I watched part of it and I went to sleep and I woke up this morning and I'm like, nice.
Which is impressive because you don't ever sleep. But last night you're like, no, UCLA's got this one. I'm going to go to bed.
I kind of feel like I honestly have not watched many of the games just because I just haven't been able to. I've just been following scores and stuff. And last night I watched the last half of the first game, and then I was watching the first little bit of Michigan. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna ruin this. Like, if I do this, they're gonna lose, and it's gonna be my fault. I don't know how. And there you go. So
is this your way of passively trying to take credit for the loss because you went to bed?
No. This is my way of
sleep and Michigan lost. So you're like, yay.
No, this is my way of not even. It's not even passive. This is my way of directly saying scoreboard to you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because new sheriff in town, new dog, top dog. I don't know, however you want to say it.
Okay.
Neener. I mean, however you want to take it. Like you guys can take it however you want. That's essentially what's going on right now.
Neener. Okay. Pumpkin eater.
Anyway, so what else we want to talk about? Oh, I had a question I wanted to throw at you this week.
Yeah,
a little different. So on was it Friday? I think it was Friday. Thursday or Friday. Chad and Ray and I did a podcast interview together, which was a lot of fun. Like someone interviewed the three of us. His name is Sam Demma. And if you know Sam Demma, it's samdemma, DEMMA.com. He's a motivational speaker for teens and for kids. But he's now starting to do a little more he's speaking with teachers and stuff too. So he talks around, it's the high achieving, high performing teen. And now he's turning that with the teacher stuff. And so he reached out to us. Yeah, and I was impressed by him because he reached out with a video message to me and Chad, and like he was funny in it, he was sincere in it. He had it wasn't like a stock one that he sends to everybody, like it was for us.
It was,
and so I'm like,
Jeff Gargas.
No, yeah, like he did it for us. And then I sent him a video back, and I was like, hey,
that's cool.
I'm like, I don't think I've ever played one of these video messages before, so I'm, I was impressed. I'm like, I felt like I needed to answer back, and he came back. He's like, I don't think anybody has ever replied in video. And so it went on, and this dude had done his homework. He's pulling out lines from the book. And I'm not talking like lines from the book, thoughts from the book, thoughts from the website. I mean, all kinds of stuff, and just a great interviewer. But one of the questions he asked us it was toward the end, was if you could go back and talk to your younger self. And he didn't necessarily say like 10 years, 15 years, 20. He just said like younger self. Now, there may or may not have been some comments how I would have to go back further than anyone else, but you would have to go back any further, so I can make the comment now.
Okay.
But the question was, what would you like? What advice would you say? Like, what would you tell yourself? That it's fairly common question, but always a fun one to think through. So that I was thinking, I'm like, what should Dave and I talk about when I was planning out our, really planning out our.
Are you listening, Ray? There was a plan today.
It was a couple days ago, actually.
Yeah,
I was like, hey, we could talk about brackets and we talk about this. And it was, so what would Dave Schmittou say? It made me really curious because you've done so many different things that I think a lot of people don't know about you. And you've shared you've opened up and talked about like some of the different like good and bad moments and the humility and the whole like the principle of the year thing and all that, like all that stuff. But like go back further than that, like maybe like just entering college, early 20s, like starting to think about what you might want to do with your life, like that part. What would Dave now go back and say to Dave then to make sure that he has what he needs to, whether it's to be happier, whether it's to make better decisions, whether it's to be better prepared for something, like, or would you just let it play out? Like that was my thing. I'm like, or like, do you just let it play out? 'Cause I'm like, I always think about that. Like one of the things we get into is when I talk about like how I look at like where I come from and the advantages I had and privilege I had as growing up, but like that I was never really like checked in school because they weren't checking my progress and mastery. They were just assuming it was good that I was, because I knew how to play the game. And I'm like, yeah, but had that happened, would I went to school and been like a doctor or a lawyer or something, or would I? And then I wouldn't be here. So do I really wish that would have happened? Because I kind of like where I'm at, right? So like so part of me is always like when I get that question, I'm like, I wouldn't say anything. I'd let him just live his life because that's what's made me. But if we take away that answer,
okay,
and we go, you have
an answer. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. For some reason, you have to have this conversation. Like, what are you going to say to that person? And what I'd really love to know is, so everyone's just taking care of Liv here in the comments. I'm loving it. So Danielle started it. I love it, Danielle. So if you can, while Dave's sharing this, if you can in the comments, I'd love to hear, like, what would you say to your younger self? Like, what would you tell them? Like, again, like early 20s, getting into your career or getting into, at least into your studies to get into your career. Like, what would you tell your kid? Would it be advice? Would it be a pep-up talk? Would it be a funny joke you now know that you wouldn't even get back then? Like, would it be, hey, in the year 2021, don't bet on Michigan? Like, what would it be?
Or any year from the year 2000 to 2021, don't bet on Michigan? No. But, it is an interesting question. And I have answered that question a lot of times, but I've never answered it through that time frame that you just put out there. Early 20s,
when you've done has it been further back?
Well, yeah. So it's been, what would you tell the 12-year-old version of yourself? The child.
Here's my thing. Like the 12-year-old's probably not going to remember it anyway.
He's not going to listen. He's going to like, I already know.
Well, which can be the same way.
Are you weirdo? Yeah. You say your name. No, you're not, weirdo.
I think the same thing when I'm like, if I talk to like 17 or 18-year-old Jeff, I'm like, I'm pretty sure nothing I said would stick anyway. So let's assume you're at least to the point in your life, not necessarily where you're even mature necessarily, but like where you would have at least considered having a conversation, right? Where you might look to someone for some advice or something. So
this is interesting. Back when I was a classroom teacher, I actually had my students do this assignment. So, but it was weird because I was teaching 12 and 13-year-olds at the time. So it was one of these weird assignments. So Brad Paisley wrote a song, I don't know, 15 years ago, Letters to Me. And it's basically the same premise. What would he tell himself he could?
Yeah, what would he say? Yeah,
letter to himself. So I would play that song for my students, and then I had them predict who they were going to be, and then write a letter back to themselves at 12. So write a letter right now as a 12-year-old, and it was a really cool assignment. And
so they had to envision themselves 20 years from now writing back to themselves.
Yeah, it was a way for them to really identify what did they want to know, what's important to them right now, without me saying just teach me a lesson. But so it was really cool how I was able to manipulate them to do that. But as you were asking me this, my mind was just swirling, because again, I have never reflected on this through the lens of a 19, 20, 21-year-old. And so that was a tough time for me as an adult. For a lot of people, that was like the heyday of life. But for me, I started college at 17 years old, which is crazy. And I moved 1,000 miles away from home to go to college for no other reason other than I could get in-state tuition in Michigan. My family lived in Florida, but I could get in-state tuition in Michigan. And I said, I'm going to get as far away as I can and start my own life. But when I went at 17, I I went in blind. I ended up with 3 roommates. There were 4 of us guys living in one room, and one was a state champ wrestler, one played on the football team, and one was a GQ model. And then there was me. I was 17 years old. When I started college, I weighed 126 pounds.
What was your thing? So if they're like, yeah, if one of the other roommates was like, well, one of my roommates is a state champion wrestler, the other one's a GQ model, and then my third one is.
Then I had this roommate named Dave who would cry himself to sleep. Because, yeah. Well, and here's the deal. I was 17. I was naive. I was innocent. Came from a military household, like super strict. Had never done anything wrong whatsoever. My roommates, from the time they came in, they were out partying and doing all the things, and I stayed back because I was 17, didn't know any better, and I would just lay in bed and feel so alone and like crying until my birthday's in October. In October of that year, I turned 18, and the floodgates opened, and I thought, now is the time for me to live my life, and I'm going to do all the things that they've been
now
doing.
That you could go to jail.
Yeah, right. No, seriously, right? It was super stupid. But I thought, now is my time to just follow their lead and do all the things that they're doing. And man, freshman, sophomore year of college were a mess because I just made stupid decision after stupid decision after stupid decision, trying to follow other people's leads because I wasn't comfortable yet just saying, no, this is who I am. Stay in your lane. I was just trying to follow the lead of these guys that I worshiped them. And I mean, they were the type of guys that literally, they walked into a bar or a club and I felt like the music stopped, the lights go on them, and they're like, the party started. And, I'm tagging along behind them. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be them. And ironically, at the end of my sophomore year, all 3 of them had failed out of school and I'm left there by myself and still didn't have any identity because I'd spent 2 years trying to chase them. And then so it started this whole journey. So all of that to say, what I would tell myself at 17, 18, 19 years old is be comfortable in your own skin. Just be you. Quit trying to be everybody else. Quit trying to figure out what people want you to be. Quit trying to just make everybody like you by you being this chameleon, and just find out who you are. Because I could have saved myself 20 years if I figured that out early on.
It was deep.
Yeah, well, you ask a good question, sir.
My answer on the podcast was fair, like it was kind of like the last question, so we keep it simple. Mine was actually funny. So Chad gave like a great, like a phenomenal answer, and like really in depth, like really thought, but like it was Chad. He talked for a little bit, and like I joked, I'm like, your 20-year-old self would have fallen asleep, but so I tried to go super quick, and I went with easy to say or simple, like short and sweet, which was, you're going to fail more, or you're going to lose more than you win, but you'll learn every time. Because that's what I would told myself. But you went really deep there. And I'm trying to think. So what age? You think it's 17? So 17, I was still in high school.
Because
I wasn't all fancy like you going to college early.
Well, that's when I was still trying to figure out things. And here's at 17, 18 years old, I went to college and I thought I'm going to be a broadcasting major, and decided after my freshman year, not going to do that.
TV or radio?
I thought TV.
Okay.
But then it shifted to radio, and then I just lost it all together.
After you had the GQ roommate, and you're like, nah, definitely face for radio.
That's not gonna work. Gotcha. Yeah, that's not going to work. So then I shifted, and it was just like this constant wandering. And I don't even know if I should admit this. I'm going to. Yeah, I'll just be very real. If anybody wants to know the real reason I went into education, it has nothing to do with I wanted to change the world. Had nothing to do with I had these visions of changing destinies. It became that once I discovered education. But the real reason, God's honest reason. So after my freshman year, which was a mess, ended up taking a class called BCA 210, black and white movies, Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, slept through them. Didn't succeed in that class. I had a choice. I can switch majors or go pay money to repeat a class with financial aid not covering it. So I went and sat down in the quad, which is the big area in the middle of the campus. And
what campus was this?
Central Michigan.
Okay, it was Central. Okay.
It was, yeah. This is going to be so shallow. And there's going to be some people that say, yep, haven't changed, Schmitto. But I sat on a bench and was just sitting in the middle of town. Right next to this quad was a hall called Ronan Hall. It's where all the education classes were. Well, about 1 o'clock, on a Friday afternoon, a pack of 18, 19-year-old co-eds walked past me, and I watched, and I thought, what are they studying? I want to learn that. Lo and behold, it was the education department. It was the education building.
Makes sense.
I went and talked to my advisor, and they said, actually, we can take a lot of your broadcasting courses and we can translate those into a language arts major. I had taken some geography classes in case I wanted to go into meteorology. They said, we can translate that to a social studies major. Go into teaching, and you don't lose any credits. Done. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. And
nice.
Yeah. So I would goes back to my advice too. Be true to you. Don't just follow the crowd.
Sure. But
whatever crowd that might be.
Going to my original comment, like, though, but like, if you think about that, like, it's a good thing that that's how that happened, because you ended up here, right? So that's why this question's weird. But like, yeah, I think for me, honestly, I was thinking through. Oh my god, I asked the question. I should at least like answer the question. I don't know how I would say it, but I would try. I think I would tell myself to actually. I don't want to say speak up. I like talk to my parents. So like, I was in a spot where I went to college because I thought I was supposed to. Mm-hmm. My dad was one of the first in like his like in his town, one of the few in his town that like went to college. He busted his butt to pay for it all when he was younger and got to go and worked the whole time, everything like that. Like worked really hard to give us the opportunity for. I'm the youngest of three, for us all three to be able to go to college if we wanted to. And my oldest brother went out to college. My middle brother was managing a department store, so he didn't go. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I was one signature away from joining the Army, and ended up deciding that that's not where I wanted to go because of my eyesight. I was going to be through basic training and right to a desk. And I, for whatever reason at that point, wanted to see combat. And so I shifted, and I thought, I'm like, well, I'm supposed to go to college. That's what I'm supposed to do. What I really wanted to do was be a rock star. I mean, that was what I thought I was going to do, right?
Look at you now, though, right?
Well, but the crazy thing was, like, I ended up going, and I got accepted in Data School of Music, went for guitar, but then I switched to education for a half second. Then actually, originally I applied, I went in as education major. That was how I got, like, what I originally went into. But before that, I even got, that was like, it was during the summer when then I auditioned and got accepted into Dana School of Music. So I switched before going in. And then after a semester of that, I switched to business. Then I switched back to education. Then I switched back to business and all this stuff. And I went and I stayed more so because I thought that that's what I was supposed to do. I was fortunate and lucky enough to have the ability to go do that. And I was so worried about like that my parents would not be okay if I didn't, that I hid the fact that I wasn't going to class. I was skipping everything. I could still probably write a great late withdrawal paper. But if you know anything about late withdrawal papers, like it just doesn't give you an F, so it doesn't hurt your GPA, but you still have to take the course again sometime. Right. So all this stuff. And then later on in life, after a major failure of mine, talking with my dad and stuff, and like so worried about the judgment, all that stuff. He's like, your mom and I don't care what you do. Like, we just want you to find something and do something that you're happy with. And I'm like, had I went to them at 17, 18, been like, hey, I really don't want to go to college, they'd probably been like, great, what do you want to do? But I went because of that, right? So I think I would have been like, I would have told him, hey, like, told my younger self, like, speak up for yourself, like fight for what you're trying to do. Don't try and hide it and do what you're supposed to do, right? So it's similar to being true to yourself, but on a different level. Or maybe I would have said like, hey, go to class, you idiot. Like maybe that would have been how I would have did it. I don't know. So, but because I hung out in the quad. Well, I was in the quad. It was outside of Kilcawley's Center, which was our quad area, but we had like these hills, and most of my days I spent sitting on the hill playing guitar.
Out Max and Rocks and all cool. Shooting
basically. Yeah. So, but there was like a couple of guys came up and they started making trouble. Like
in the neighborhood, right?
Well, at my campus. Yeah.
Mom and dad got scared. They sent you to Stowe, Ohio to start teaching better. Anyway, I'm going to answer Candace's question real quick. Candace, 95 is when I started. So
I want to go through and pop up some of these because everyone was commenting here. So Danielle, I would tell my younger self that you don't always have to be a perfect leader. You don't have to be perfect. Anything is a really good thing to instill in people. Beth, love myself, love me. So I think that's, I've searched for love from others and really just needed to love myself. Yes. That's fantastic. Great. Great one there. No college, no nothing. Compare you to teaching a pandemic. Of course, Lindsay would share so many things. She'd blow her out of water. What comes to mind would be just because you're good at something doesn't mean you have to do it. That's a great one. Hi, Ray. Good to see you. Candace is here.
When she was younger, she would make sure that she told us.
I'm not seeing it. Right? I'm not seeing if anybody else is saying this. Eric's here as well. Candace, good to see you. No, okay, we're going. So everyone's just sort of saying hi and talking through things. Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, I think for me, one of the biggest things I would really tell my younger self that like what the original thing I said, that you're gonna fail more than you win, because for a long time, that's when I figured that out is when I became a lot better and more okay with myself, because just the first one just almost destroyed me. Almost took me out.
Yeah. There's so much power in this conversation. On a light mark, Candace Miller was at CMU just a couple years before I was, which is crazy. She broke the college in for me. So Candace, yes, 95 to 99, I was there. So yay, maybe we cross paths at some homecoming game. But Jeff, I'm going to be completely honest. The last year and a half, 2 years have changed my thinking about a lot of these things. A lot of these conversations during Brain Break, I spend my Thursdays really reflecting on them and thinking about the conversations we've had. I told you last week I was up all night thinking about our conversation from last week. But I even think about these conversations through the lens of dad, with my dad hat on, with my oldest already being 15, my youngest 5. And I'm thinking, what conversations do I want to be able to have with them? Knowing that some of it's sinking in. It is. They might disagree out loud and verbally, but sure. I want to make sure they hear from me. 2 years ago, I started having a conversation with my son, my oldest son, who at the time was 13. He was telling me, I don't want to go to college. And I said, oh, yeah, you're going to go to college. You don't know it now, but you're going to go to college, as though it was a thing he had to do. I was an educator, went to college forever. College is what you're going to do, son. But then and even to this day, he says, no, I know what I want to do. I've got a vision. I've got a direction. He's got a plan, and college is not part of it. And I'm learning to listen. I'm learning to allow him to continue to talk and share his passions and his interests. And he's got a solid plan, which is so bizarre for somebody right now. Like, the day job is a college, but I understand his passions, and college is not a requirement for him. So I am trying my best to find that balance between being the dad that says, no, I know what's best for you, versus actually, you know what's best for you, and trying to really weigh that out. I'm wondering, as a dad, as you start to think about your kids growing up too, where does that balance lie between what's best for your kids versus let them figure it out for themselves? I spent a lot of time as a dad protecting my kids from failure. I didn't want to see them fail, but I also know the beauty in it. So
yeah, I'm the same way, and I have to check myself a lot when I see it, when they're falling down or whatever. I'm like, I got to stop myself from doing that, because I'm like, no, they need to learn that stuff. I think it's quite a bit different for me. Of course, you have younger ones too, but my kids are 6 and 9, so I've
got a 5, an 8, a 10.
Yeah, but when you talk, so when you think about your 15-year-old, college is there and should be a consideration in some way or form, right? There's a chance that my 6-year-old, college is not going to look like it does right now. And most likely, unless she goes into something very, very specialized, is not going to be needed. That's just the reality of it. Yeah. That's just, so it's different. But we actually, I notice us now, even when we talk, so we drive by Kent State University anytime we take them out to grandparents. And I taught at Kent State for a couple years. And so they know that as the big school Daddy taught at before and went to, and dropped out of twice. When we go by there, and Jacqueline one time said, I want to go there one day. I'm going to go to college. And I'm like, well, that sounds great. And I'm like, if you want to go to college, you don't. She's like, well, I need to go to college. I'm like, well, no, you don't. You might, but you might do something. And I'm sitting there going, she's 6. Do I really need to have this conversation? But I think that for me, what I hope that I can do is help them understand that college or whatever that looks like, that more the continuing education is available in whatever the many forms that it is, but that there are also other paths to it, right? So, we look at kids right now, they could go into some sort of trade school and get right into that. They could go. I feel like what I should have done was just go work, Like I should have gone and worked because I needed to grow up. I was severely immature. I needed to go get in the real world, get smacked in the face a little bit, and grow up. And I think that would have probably adjusted the way that maybe I would have figured out where I wanted to go sooner. Mm-hmm. Now, who knows, right? It might have ruined everything, and I'd be miserable in an office somewhere. But like, so I think that's a big piece. But I think I think the most important piece is to show them as many options as they have. And then our job is to work to support them and give them whatever opportunities we can to go and find whatever it is, right? And to go figure it out. And I think even more important than anything, and this is what my dad did that in this one conversation, I remember where I was. I pulled off to the side of the road. It was super dark. And when I told him that the record label was failing and stuff, and when he told me, he's like, your mom and I don't care what you do, like, or how many times you do things or whatever. Like, we just want you to be happy someday. And my thing was like, so like, I hope that my kids know as they get older that like, if they pursue this an art career or a music career or whatever, and after 5-6 years it fails, that they know like I still got their back, right? And that it's okay, and that we'll figure it out, together, and that they can still reset and go after the next thing. And so like your son's got a plan, but like he's also 15.
Yeah.
When he's 20, he's going to be a completely different person.
Yeah.
Like, and the world's going to be completely different. Like your 15 to 20, that 5 years is like 6 to 12 months of what his life is based on the way the world and technology changes right now. Yeah. So now, if I can put a complete spin on all of this, like, had I known when I was 20 that like this was going to happen in my life, I'd have been like, hey, if you meet someone who makes up their own name and it doesn't even make sense because they don't like the real name, you probably should just run. And so like I would have ran, but here I am, and here she is butting in on my time with Dave. What's up, Ray? What are you doing?
You guys have been
She's been down there for a while. I took her a while to bring her in because we were in the middle of something.
You were in like this very deep conversation, but I have to tell you, I felt a responsibility to like come on a brain break and check in on you guys. You've had 2 or 3 like really intense brain breaks. So I'm like, maybe I'll just go say hi. I have a minute. So
somebody told us to start planning these things out. And these are the things that are on our minds when we think long term. If you want us to just have a regular brain break, get rid of the spreadsheet, Ray. Just
when I was talking about planning breaks, I meant
the spreadsheet that literally has nothing on it.
I meant like planning a game in advance, maybe, or like not like plan deep life reflection counseling moments in advance.
So anyway, hi Ray.
Hey,
Ray, what would you go back and tell your, like, when you were just getting into college and like figuring life out? Like, you answered this on the podcast. I don't remember what your answer was actually, but like, what would you say? So that was like your podcast, like that's PR. Like this is brain break. So like, let's get real. What would you really say?
Okay,
go back to being a dance teacher, or
no? My podcast answer was like really deep reflection. The real thing is like, if I could
find
go back
Jeff Gargas sooner.
No, I would have told myself everything you care about right now doesn't matter. That would have.
That's a huge one.
That's true.
That was one of my.
Would you have listened? Do you think you would have listened?
That's like.
I would have thought about it. I think I would have been like, what do you mean by that? Because to be honest, one of my biggest frustrations looking back, I don't know how many years we're looking back, by the way, is like
we're just going back to 20 years old.
A lot because the people around me told me that's what I should care about. And then now I'm like,
that's last week's conversation. We've already been there.
Yeah, so that would have been my tip. I'm just saying, because like nothing that I was told I should care about actually matters. That's
an interesting thing. So I thought about that a lot at the beginning of this year because like everyone was so upset about like because kids were missing things like homecoming dances and I like my thing was like you can't say this because it's not gonna connect and it's not gonna be worth it. It's not gonna be healthy. But like if I wish I could like help those kids understand that like their homecoming dance actually like doesn't matter at all in the grand scheme of their life. Like it literally has zero importance. Like. Literally zero.
And so that's the hard part.
But that's easier to do when you're looking back 20 years. And at that point in your life, it was everything. Like, right? I mean, it was
when you're between 12 and 22, you don't listen to anybody. Like, so how do you?
Well, yeah, at 22, I started listening to everybody.
Well, okay, 12 to 42, you don't listen to anybody, right?
I'm glad that I'm not there yet. That's good.
I think there's a point in your late 20s when you start being like, oh, I don't know anything. I should probably start listening to other people.
Yeah. So when did that happen? That's what I'm trying to figure out, because at some point that happened where, like, there's a moment where you do that and you go, oh crap, my dad was right all along.
Right.
Like,
Oh my gosh.
but like I talk about that like because that wasn't 20, it wasn't 23 or 24.
No, but I think it's like late 20s where you're like realizing, like, there's a little bit of moment where you're like, oh, I'm not like young. I mean, young, I don't mean young, but I mean like late 20s is like, I'm an adult. There's no excuses. I should have figured this out. And I think that's
And
a little
no one's gonna help me anymore. Like you're just
it's a little bit of a humbling moment to be like, oh, I'm recognizing I don't have everything figured out. I should ask more questions. At least it was for me.
So give me parenting advice right now. So as a dad, do I just continue to pepper my kids hoping that when they're 27, 28, they'll be like, okay, dad was right? Or do I not do that because that'll turn them away and they won't want to listen and just wait till they're 27, 28? Or is there like a sweet spot?
I think it's both, Dave, but I think the most important piece is that you are authentic with them and they know that they not only can have an opinion and have a say, but you actually care about it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you don't fight for when you know that you're like they're making a bad decision or something, and try your best. But like what you don't want is resentment.
Yeah,
you don't want them to resent you later on because if you prevent them from trying something, even if it's something that they end up failing, they're going to look back and wonder if it wouldn't have failed because they never tried it, and they're going to potentially put that on you for never allowing them. So I can look back and be like, my parents let me go after it, and I like when I did my like music and my record label, and it burned bad and it hurt, but that was on me. It was 100% me. Like no one, you know what I mean? Like they didn't stop me from doing that. They said, "Hey, like go." And then when it all went down, they're like, "Hey, like it's all right. Get up, kid." Like you know. So for me, that it's. I think it's as long as you're. I don't know the answer, dude. I got too much. I have like another at least 9 years. I have 9 years before my kids get whatever. I don't know how to do math. I've got a while before I have to care about that, I guess.
So how do I get my daughter Reagan to end up like Ray? What do I do?
That is the nicest compliment ever, just so you know. But honestly, I feel like it has, I mean, obviously I think it's a blending of a lot of different things, but one of the biggest things that I think my parents did beautifully was that everything was rooted in these like core values. So it wasn't so much that they were telling me what decision to make, but it had to align with these like core values that they instilled. Mm-hmm. And so I think that that's kind of a happy medium. Like you can share your opinion, but also just encourage them to make an opinion that aligns again with a core value. But I also knew that they had my back. And so finding that, I don't know how to find that perfect balance. I am not a parent and, you know,
but I think you just said it. And I think for me, that was for me, like one of the most important things is like, they got to know that you have their back. I think the core values is key. But I think Dave, again, I think a huge important part that I'm trying to focus on is that they understand that like what they do or how well they do it or how successful or anything like that they do like literally is not what I care about. And that and this is, I go back to what like my dad, like the thing that I care about is the fact that I just want them to be happy, whatever that is. Like that I'm not worried about being able to brag to my friends about them because they became a doctor, a lawyer, or they went to this school, whatever, but that I'm really worried about them being happy in their life. Okay, whatever that looks like.
That's true. And my parents definitely want to be happy, but can we preface here? My parents pushed us real hard to have high expectations. So I don't know that they really took off the mentality of like, oh, whatever you turn into, we'll be proud of you. I don't think that my parents came off.
Well, but my thing is you can instill high expectations and work ethic in a kid while still letting them know that you still got their back.
I just don't think that they shared the mentality of like, whatever you go do, we'll be proud of you. I think that they were maybe a little more opinionated than that.
So I'm going to totally nerd out right now, and I'm going to shift this off of the parenting lens because we're educators here. What I'm hearing right now, also, I'm thinking you guys are making me reflect on what I did as a principal of my school and the autonomy I should have given teachers to make good decisions. As long as they align to some core values, make those decisions, do it how you want to do it. High expectations, high standards, but how you get there is completely up to you. Justify it, rationalize it, make good choices, focus on the kids, and go. And as opposed to, I'm going to come in every single day. I'm going to tell you what page to be on, what chapter to be on, objective on the board, like telling everybody to follow the script, teach people how to make decisions. Yeah.
Dave, that's one of the things that we do when we work with a district. We're like, first thing we need to figure out is what is a good classroom look like in your district? Yeah. It's not, this is where they're on the board, this is what they do. It's like, what are the core values that are in place, the core things are in place. Okay, great. And like a lot, we do obviously a lot with the grid method. And a lot of times it's like, look, if this is what you're trying to hit, and the grid method can do that, offer that as an opportunity, a tool. But if they're doing it without it, then who cares if they run the grid method, right? As long as they're doing it, what they're hitting what you do. So similar to core values, if your parents are instilling core values in you, then as long as you're hitting those core values and living true to them, like who cares? Like you could do that as a teacher, as a ballet dancer, as a garbage truck driver, as an accountant, as a lawyer. Like you can do that. It's all the other stuff is just title and money, right? Not core values. Now, unless one of the core values is you have to have X amount of wealth, like that's a different story. But
well, you're talking to educators, so we know that that's not the case.
You guys are this is a great conversation. Everyone's been like commenting, but it's so funny that this is a brain break conversation. This should be like a bi-weekly check-in conversation.
What we say last week?
We'll finish this next week then, okay?
Yeah.
What did we say last week, Dave? It was like last week you said sometimes your brain breaks, sometimes what is it? Brain.
I have no idea. I don't know.
You said it last week, and I can't remember what it was, but it's something about like sometimes it's a brain break, sometimes it's a brain bend or I don't know. I don't know. This is what happens. Like, look, Dave had to get into some serious self-reflection because, as you know, Ray, something happened that just really made Dave have to sit back and reflect. I don't know if you were aware of like the trauma that occurred, but like that happened that Dave had to really. Yeah, like Michigan lost last night.
I was on a phone call today, and somebody was talking about March Madness and the game yesterday, and my first question was, did Michigan win? And they were like, they didn't respond to me. They said, why? And I'm like, because I am rooting for Dave Schmittou.
There we go.
So they didn't, but more importantly than that, Ray, not only did Michigan not win, but because of that, I took over the number one slot. Where if you remember last week's brain break, I was in 9th.
Whatever.
So Dave's having a little bit of needs to reflect on his decisions in life moment right now. And
by 2 points.
Dave, I just want you to know that I didn't make a bracket, so the whole time I just kept being like, I want Dave to win. Like that was my bracket. It's like if Dave won, I won. You know,
it's nice to know where we all line up on Ray's scales.
I did have an interesting conversation with Hunter, who you were just on this podcast.
Oh Dave. My gosh, yes. He's so stinking amazing.
Yes.
He is incredible, yes.
We were messaging back and forth on Instagram about how great you were, which now when I say that out loud, sounds like the weirdest conversation
That's
ever.
Really creepy, but carry on.
It was like in a way that he was like, oh my gosh, it was such a fun episode. And I'm like, yeah, I loved listening. Dave's so great. And then we went into what's the best Dave pair up? And so I want to share that with our brain break people right now. Is the best Dave pair up Dave and Jeff, Dave and Caitlin, Dave and Ray, Dave and Hunter? Like, what is the ultimate Dave?
I feel like this is like a superhero movie here.
I was totally Dave. Just so you know where my mind went when she said pair up. I'm thinking like white wine, red wine, beer, liquor. Like where are we at? Like I'm pretty sure it's bourbon or beer or Blue Moon. So before we go there, Ray, I just want to answer Chelsea. Can you message Joshua at teachbetter.com? Tell him to make some brain break swag. Okay, good. Go ahead, Ray.
So brain break swag. First of all, are those all gonna be like tank tops and like drinking attire? Like what is
beer? Like we'll do beer koozies.
Yeah,
wine glasses.
I can't believe you don't have brain break swag.
Yeah, that's a
to be fair, we're probably not necessarily in the right state of mind to be making those decisions, right? So
definitely email Josh without a doubt. I'm shocked. Yeah.
And now Brittany says we also need Speakers Network swag.
I can't believe we don't have that. I was just talking to Becky Schnexer like a half an hour ago. And
can I tell you that yesterday Chad ruined my productivity in the morning because he shot me a text with a link to custom hockey jerseys with the Teach Better logo on it with jersey, and I'm like, this is about to happen. And then I thought, I'm not even going to say it live because I'm going to get us in a lot of trouble if I do it. So I won't even say it because I'm pretty sure people will want it. So we're going to go. We'll think about that and maybe we'll talk about it on 12 Hour Live, which is April 24th, by the way.
April 24th. I want to know the best Dave pair up. That's what I want to know. Hunter and I exclusively agreed it wasn't that he wasn't going to win. That's essentially where we left the conversation.
Well, you both agreed to that? Because I don't know. Hunter's pretty impressive.
I originally said, Hunter, I think you and Dave are a great pair up. And he's like, no, I don't compete with you and Dave. And I was like, I don't think I compete with Caitlin and Dave. And then I was like, oh, and he does some stuff with Jeff.
Okay. Dave, is your family nearby?
They're not.
We can settle this. Okay.
No,
well, when you get a chance, ask your kids because we'll settle this. We know
a tweet out there that might. Yeah,
the people that know Dave best know who works with Dave.
Our
best.
network decides what is the Dave pair up.
So can I ask a question here? You know, Batman and Robin were kind of like Batman never worked with anybody else. It was just Batman and Robin.
If you are about to make me Robin, this is going to be a bad ending.
No. I'm just wondering.
You're going to get booted.
Am I the guy that nobody wants to work with, so I get passed around like last pick, or
no? Like
you guys are like seriously, something's got to click with Dave. You try. No, you try. Or
I think Danielle nailed it.
Okay.
I don't know. I do think it depends on the need, but look, they've been all like reflectively and insightful on Brain Break the past 2 weeks, so who knows?
You know, I don't know. It's
I don't know.
I think my vote probably goes to Dave and Caitlin, honestly. But
that's what I said too. I was like, but I hate that answer.
So we're gonna do a different 12-hour live somewhere down the road where it's just 12 hours of Dave with different people.
So I always do like the secret shirt of the day.
What's he got? He's got Caitlin on?
Team Caitlin. Man.
So okay, quick question, Dave. Let's clarify. Yeah. Do you have any other shirts with you on your trip, or is that the only one you took?
Hold one thought. This is in my dirty clothes pile because I wore it yesterday.
That's Team Ray.
Yeah, it's Team Ray.
Yes.
Do you even have a Team Jeff? You don't have a Team Jeff shirt.
Make Team Jeff shirts?
Wow.
Wait, I like the Team Better ones that are on there.
I'm pretty sure the Team Schmittou ones just got deleted off the site.
No, there's Team Schmittou ones on the site too, but I really I saw somebody post, it was probably Nikki.
Team Better. Yeah, it's probably Nikki.
Team Better, and I liked that hashtag Team Better.
I agree.
Yes. If anybody does have swag that you want us to make, seriously, I wasn't joking. Just email Josh Stamper.
And just say Jeff said.
Just say Ray said. We want to make sure he does it. It'll be fine. So
I support all swag.
Ray, I don't want. I'm not trying to take us back to like the deep stuff, but I was curious and I didn't actually ask. What were the core values? Like, do you know? Like, was it like I don't like? Not that I think they like stood up and like, here's our core values, and you like, but like you figured them out along the way. Like, I assume always drinking a good wine was one of them.
Or were they explicit? Or did they say these are our core?
Or were they explicit? Yeah.
There was no poster or graphic, although that wouldn't have surprised me at all, knowing my parents. They would have been like, we've made this bulletin board for you. You know, like, I know, like, clearly, if you guys know my parents at all, like, clearly a core value was, like, making connections with people. My parents are, like, schmoozers beyond schmoozers.
Both of your parents are total poodles.
They are.
If you don't know what I mean, go read the book Sales Dogs, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. One of the best sales books ever. So anyway, go ahead. The poodles.
So, like, family and friends were core values, but they also really believe that you review. I don't know that they explicitly ever said this, but if you were to like put it in one phrase that might sound negative, they were like, if you're going to be in a field, you better be the best in it. And I think that is weird because they never said it, but like both my parents are VPs of like national companies that are insanely successful. Like that's just how they operate. My sister.
So to be fair, just to clarify, VP is not the best. P is the best. But anyway, I'm joking with that.
Yeah.
So my question is was it be the best or be the best you can be?
No.
Because there's a big difference.
Okay. Yeah, there is a difference.
I agree with one and disagree with the other.
No, it was be the best.
And so I guess I need to clarify too. So they never said that to you. You just saw
Never.
it in their behaviors. You saw that that's something that they valued.
Everybody in our
Huh.
bubble growing up, like family members, whatever, were like the most successful they could be in their field. They were all like excessively generous. They were excessively smart. Like everybody in my upbringing was the best possible.
But
They were
again,
all
you're saying the best, but it's not. But then you said the best they could be, and they're the best they could be, not necessarily the best. Like LeBron James is the best, but to tell your kid to be that is, in my opinion, actually
But
probably
to be fair,
more harmful than
Ray
anything.
said her parents never said.
They
be
never
the best.
said it.
She just saw
I know.
them
So,
be the best.
but I also know both her parents, and I'm willing to bet it wasn't be the best. It was be the best you possibly could be, because your parents wouldn't be like,
or do something different.
she's not
or
the
find
number
something
one
where you
teacher
can
in
be
the
the best.
world, so we don't love her anymore.
I don't,
Like,
but it
'cause-
wasn't. You're taking it the wrong way, Jeff. Like it's not that
I'm taking
like,
it literally.
it's not be the best in the world, but like it was essentially the fact of like whatever you go do, you better be excelling in it. And so like my sister, who's a genius, like is not just becoming like a vet, which by the way would be an exceptional field for anybody, huge success, becoming a a doctor, but she's like going above and above and above. Like everything is always elevating. Like both my parents are 5-10 years from retirement, and they are both still like pursuing more in their field. Like they don't sit. They are always like chasing.
So do you feel like, do you think your parents would be less proud of you if you were, I'm trying to think of like a scenario where you were not like where you got to a spot and you're like, I'm really happy here, I'm going to stay here?
I think that they would then ask, so what areas, if you're going to stay here, then what other areas you're going to choose to excel in? Like, it's all about like, that concept of like being a learner, like you're constantly pursuing more.
Sure.
Like that's their mentality. So if you are good in your career and you're going to pursue more in family, or if you're good in your career and you're going to pursue more in a hobby, but like they're constantly like, no one just sits. We are.
So in other words,
Yes.
I was going to say, yeah, chasing greatness. I would, you said that's their value. That's what I would argue it's yours as well. Like, it's not just theirs. You've embraced it. Like, you don't look at that and like say, well, it was unrealistic expectations. You're like, no, challenge accepted, mom and dad. I got this.
Yeah, I think that came with a variety of emotions throughout your upbringing. But yeah,
so this makes me want to get into a whole other conversation that connects to last week, but we only have 8 minutes left, so it's not going to work. But
I think the concept is like a core value they instilled is always pursuing more for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever that meant is something that I chose to value because I've seen the beauty of always pursuing more. Maybe that's
I would argue just from what I do know of your parents that it wouldn't have mattered where you ended up, title, success, like money and like that. It would have just been as long as you were pursuing the best you possibly could be for yourself. Because I think the key is to yourself.
I only push back in that because I wasn't supposed to go to college, and that was really upsetting that I wasn't going to be successful.
But but how many years ago was that?
About 15.
Yeah, that was society back then. That's not necessarily your parents' core value. That was society telling them that in order for you to be successful, you had to go to college.
You can push back as much as you want, and I don't want to.
No, I'm just
on camera. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, like that's.
But I don't know that matters.
But I'm fascinated. First of all, I feel like I'm watching the podcast right now, which is so cool.
We don't get anywhere remotely near this deep.
No, but this is insightful for me. I think first of all, people are watching this and just loving this dynamic right now too. But I'm totally intrigued by this whole just the core values piece, and the fact that your parents never said this is one of our core values. You're violating a core value. It's
do any parents say that?
Doing. You saw them living it, and you made assumptions or you believed it, and you were able to predict what they would say to you just based on how they were living their life. And that's amazing. No, that's amazing.
Modeling, yeah.
No, but it's powerful because I think as a dad, one of my biggest shortcomings is I'm constantly trying to say what the expectations are. I'm constantly trying to guide with my mouth as opposed to just living it and letting.
Well, it sounds like they did say it. Did they say anything about when you weren't? Because you originally weren't going to go to college. That was the plan. Like your original plan was not going to go to college.
It wasn't a plan. I couldn't get into college.
So then, how did you know that they were worried that you would then not be successful?
Because there was a lot of disappointment going on.
No, they
talked about it. Never.
Then what was this like? Where was the disappointment at? Like, how do you know that if there was no discussion?
You can sense these things, right?
Well,
Yeah,
but yeah, but sometimes we sense things not because of it's actually what we're witnessing. It's because what we believe we're witnessing.
So respectfully, I'd love not to knock my parents on camera. As
I don't want to not. No, I'm actually arguing against what yours against that because I don't believe your parents would say that. I actually think you might have misinterpreted them because they were so successful.
I can tell.
I believe your parents would have.
I said it
shouted you from the mountaintops no matter what.
It's so interesting that you want to argue with me about my parents when I lived with them.
So
but
I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back and say the premise of this.
There were many dinners where we'd sit down and it'd be like, "Oh, yeah. Did you hear that Dave wasn't going to call?" Like,
my parents did that too.
To rewind, what started this was I said I want my daughter to be like you when she grows up. So I need to not only learn like what skills that you have, but what your parents did to help create.
So first off,
that's
your daughter's name. She needs to change it.
Oh well,
she's halfway there. She's like right there.
She is Ray.
She's gonna be Ray. Okay, good. So that.
She has to choose that herself. I can't tell her that.
You're right.
A core value I have is everybody has a nickname based off of the first letter.
You actually have to hold strong, always calling her by her full name. Like that dynamic.
I always call her Reagan, and she'll naturally say, "I don't like that anymore. I'm Ray." Got it. Okay.
I love it.
Okay, yeah, that's about right? Yeah.
Can I just tell you though, my parents do call me by my full name. They don't call me Ray.
They call her Rachel.
They do.
My parents call me Matthew. There's another story for another day.
We should discuss that way more.
That's interesting. We have a little over 3 minutes. Let's discuss that really quickly. Why do they call you Matthew?
Because it's awesome. No, so my middle name is Matthew.
I know that, but like,
so, my dad's name is Dave also. And growing
that
up,
makes sense. Okay, that makes sense then.
I'm not a junior. His different middle names.
Yeah.
But my dad did not want me named after him. My mom did. Whatever. It's a whole thing.
Weird.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead. Start talking about my parents, Jeff. Go ahead. No. Normally that's a guy thing to want the son named after. That's a guy thing. But my mom did. My dad didn't. There's a whole dynamic there. So growing up, they called me Matthew just to make it easier. Around the age of 12, though, I said, I feel like I'm growing up now, and I see my dad as Dave. I want to start being called a grown-up name. So I went to school and said, start calling me Dave. So my teachers call me Dave. I went to a conference, parent-teacher conference. My teachers were referring to Dave, and my parents had no idea they were talking about me.
Because they say...
Because it was Matthew. So even to this day, like when I'm home, I'm Matthew to them. Like it doesn't even... I don't even notice.
Dave, I'm picking out a little piece of that has nothing to do with what you were actually the concept you're talking about. Like, what moment was it when you decided like, oh, I need Dave? Because there's a moment with me where like for a while there when I got into high school and stuff, like I wanted to be Jeff. I want to be Jeffrey because my mom called me Jeffrey. But then there's a moment where I started to like say like, oh, I want to be successful like my father, and he's David. So I need to be Jeffrey again.
So
I'm trying. I don't know where that was in my life. I think I was like 22, 23, but there's a moment there for a while where I'm like, and everything was Jeffrey. It's like I still signed my name, but like now I'm back to Jeff. But like,
for me, the answer is actually way more shallow than anything I just presented to you. It was actually when I first started practicing my signature for when I was famous, and I thought it's weird to just sign my middle name and last name. I need to sign my first name too. So I started signing my first, and I was like, okay, that's official now. I'm now David. That's a grown-up name, and that's how I sign my name for when I'm famous.
But if you went to like be like an actor or something like that, you'd probably change your name to like Matthew Schmidt to make it easier for everyone.
What would it be?
You know what I mean? Like most actors aren't their real names.
Yeah, but I wasn't gonna be an actor. I was gonna be Mr. Wizard or on the Weather Channel. So I think.
So not famous.
Yeah, exactly.
So you.
I would have been
actually our meteorologists around here are the famous ones. So that makes sense. Yeah. Interesting.
Welcome for bringing back the brain break, Ray. This is what we do in a brain break.
I don't know that I helped. I really just realized that this show is going underwater and we'll be done with this in a few weeks. I think we should do something else.
There are so many comments that I didn't get to that I'm not paying attention because I was so into this conversation.
Next week, everybody needs to bring their weatherman name. What would your weatherman name be? And we'll talk. No, we're not going to do that.
No, next week we're bringing Ray back. We're diving into her childhood.
Oh. I love my parents, but I have great things to say about my parents.
I want to be very clear that I was arguing in favor of your parents because I think they're both incredibly brilliant people. I was arguing positively for them, not negatively.
Yes, I understand. But it's weird to have you argue against
it is weird.
My parents when you're asking
it is very weird.
It was like when I was a kid. It's like you weren't there. It's weird.
I was arguing more that I wasn't really arguing. I was trying to inquire whether you might have perceived things one way when they weren't necessary, because I did that all the time with my parents.
Right, but I think I'm reflective enough to be able to say that that may not have been the case, but I appreciate that it's an option. It could have been.
Katie Miglin, best idea ever. Next week's guests, boom.
Katie has had many a times with Jim and Julie. Many a times.
Oh, that'll be a good time. I'll reach out, see what they say.
I think I do need to have a conversation with them, Ray. I need to figure them out.
Dave, so all joking aside, they're the two most incredible human beings on the planet. There is no one I hold higher up on a pedestal than my parents. I believe they are absolute geniuses and fabulous human beings. Honest to God. They're amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They're so good.
I've only actually hung out with them once, but I would fully support that statement.
Yeah.
Don't tell my parents, but I support that statement.
It's
right,
because of the product that they produce. So
I
Because
think in spite of.
yeah,
yes,
Ben Fisher's a genius. So
of my sister.
Oh man, actually, it was because of that dinner. That's what did it for me.
We did
Yeah.
it together.
Yeah, or the wine tour. I think the wine tour that they did, and at the start of the pandemic, really locked it in.
I will be happy to share that out again for everybody who
We
missed
should
it.
totally share that. It was awesome. It was hilarious, especially if you. I think it's probably better when you know them. I think it's still probably pretty cool if you don't know them, but if you know them, it's just even better.
Here's the other thing, Dave. Aside from how they parented, their expectation, core values, whatever, I think it's so interesting. I know we're out of time, but so interesting to see a couple that is so happily married, like with being an empty nester. Like
And
not to say in a bad way, like people aren't in love with their spouses. That's not what I mean. But like my parents, like I call them on Saturday nights and like it is relentless. I call my mother and she is like almost peeing her pants laughing. And I'm like, what are you doing? And every time she's like, I'm out with your father. We're having a grand old time. And I'm like, who lives that life that you can still be that in love and that happy? Like, it's like so weird and awesome and wonderful. I'm so happy for them. It's so weird.
that's cool.
It's awesome.
we can all really only hope for that. So
Yeah, me too. Yikes.
Very cool.
we already don't do that. Amy's like she doesn't want to be anywhere near me.
Oh,
Like,
stop it. You're married to the
if
most
she's ever laughing, it's at me, not with me. So.
so funny.
With that said, we're 2 minutes over. We were a minute late, so we're 2 minutes over. So you actually get 1 extra minute thanks to Ray. So you're welcome, Earth. I gotta get on a call with Katie. Actually, I gotta meet with Katie. So everyone should be jealous. All right, we'll be back next week. Tomorrow night, Master Chat with P. Sloan and Joseph.
And you. I wrote
And
it
me. Well, I'm not doing the chat. I'm just doing the recap. Sloan's leading us in the chat, and then I'm going to have her afterwards. So 8 o'clock Eastern Time over on Twitter, and then we'll be live at 9 o'clock, right around 9 o'clock Eastern Time. With that, we'll be back next week. Ray, anything going on next week that we need to talk about that other than Brain Break?
Oh, epic
Yeah.
things. Make sure
Epic
you
things.
subscribe to the teachbetter.com/events calendar so you can see that the grid method is still going on. We have Focus on the Focus starting. We have our 12-hour live that was announced. So if you aren't subscribed to our events calendar, you are missing out on crazy stuff.
That's next week. Next week, right after this is going to, or not, about an hour after this, will be Focus on the Focus starting next week, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, with Dave and Caitlin. So we're going to put that whole pairing thing to the test.
We will.
It's going to be
Cool.
good. All right.
So Ray,
Y'all
I get to go live after that? Like me and Jeff for an hour, then me and Caitlin, then me and you? Is that?
And
Yeah,
we should
we're gonna hang out. Yeah.
Okay.
That'll be that day marathon we need to figure out what the best pairings are. All right, we'll see you all next week. We'll see you tomorrow night on Master Chat.